Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः okay 47 okay Ramesh ji, Dr. Ramesh and Bhagyashree from 47 कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा फलेषु कदाचन
मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः
मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भूः
मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि
मा ते सङ्गोऽस्त्वकर्मणि
योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि
योगस्थः कुरु कर्माणि
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय
सङ्गं त्यक्त्वा धनञ्जय
सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्योः समो भूत्वा
सिद्ध्यसिद्ध्योः समो भूत्वा
समत्वं योग उच्यते
समत्वं योग उच्यते
yeah so we were delving into this shloka number 48 yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. So there we initially saw a little more about what these enjoined karmas are. Enjoined means the mandated karmas that are given by the Vedas. to every person in the society, in the Vedic society. So that we saw. And then we continued the discussion of Karma Yoga, and we saw the purpose of Karma Yoga. Why you need Karma Yoga? That is because there is the Raga Dveshas that we have. Every human being has Raga Dvesha and every object. Later on, Krishna will also say that explicitly. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe Raga Dvesho vyavasthitau. Like that, he's going to make a statement later. So, either I like an object, I don't like it, I love it, I hate it. She sings well, he doesn't sing well. You cook well, you don't cook well. So like this, for every object that we come in contact with, that we know of. Objects we don't know, we can't say whether we like or don't like. But every object in this world, our personal world, is a bunch of likes and dislikes. And we allow ourselves to become victims of those likes and dislikes, and therefore Karma Yoga becomes important for us. We saw that last time. And then we said in this shloka, this last segment, last quarter, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate, we've seen that before. Sameness of attitude towards the results of my actions. We said that is one part of the definition of Karma Yoga. The other part comes from verse number 50, where Krishna again in the fourth quarter says, Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam. Yoga is also defined as ability to interpret Dharma in actions. Yogaha Karmasu Kaushalam. So that is what we were beginning to look at. And so we will continue with that discussion today. So we saw that example that, just because a person has prasada buddhi, that doesn't mean you can go and steal somebody's property. Okay. So therefore this karmasu kaushalam becomes important. And it's dharma. Dharma is basically brought in here, which we are all aware of. So the Saamaanya Dharma, we use that word Saamaanya Dharma. Saamanyam means universal. Universal means without any exception. There can't even be one human being who, if he says, no, I don't understand, I don't know that it is not correct to hurt somebody. Even if one person says that, we can't use the word Saamanya. But we all appreciate that fact, that every human being comes to know of this fact, that I don't want to be hurt, and I also know that you do not want to be hurt. This is common sense, and that is Saamanya Dharma. Now what we do is we have to interpret the Saamanya Dharma. Even though the Saamanya Dharma is universal, universal does not mean absolute. Universal does not mean absolute. And what is the meaning of that? This is also not that difficult. And for example, you take a doctor, and the doctor assesses the patient and undergoes a variety of tests and gets admitted in the hospital, and then at some point gets discharged, and the doctor finds that this person knows more about this person, and the weak heart, etc., and there is a particular ailment that has been assessed, and now the doctor decides not to inform the patient, because if the patient were told the condition of the patient may not survive just by hearing the shock, just by the shock of what the condition is. And so the doctor decides to lie. It's a white lie. You are okay, you will get better. Just follow this regimen and then you will get better. It's a white lie. because he has a condition that will not allow him to live for too long. Okay, so then there it's a white lie, but clearly everybody would agree that that's the right thing for the person to do. So therefore a lie becomes the right thing. Look at that. How can a lie be correct? We keep saying don't lie. Satyam vada, we say. Now here asatyam vada. And how dare this doctor violate the Hippocrates oath, or what else, the doctor, the medical profession has, and how dare they do it? Well, this is called vishesha dharma. Vishesha dharma means what? Hey, Saamaanya dharma is there, but don't take it literally. This taking literal is always our problem. Same thing. Even in when it comes to hurting other people, when it comes to war, all this ahimsa comes into play. Himsa, ahimsa. Should I hurt? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I shoot? Should I not shoot? So very important. Just the act of shooting does not make the act as violent. Even though the act is violent, does not make it as a himsa. You have to keep this in mind. That is why when somebody is on the road and the fellow has a gun in the hand and has a baby, and he points the gun to the baby, and just he's a deranged fellow, and he's looking around like this, and all the people are watching, and there is going to be a potentially he can kill the baby and he can do other things, and the cops are all watching, and the cops are also pointing the gun at him, and this fellow is pointing the gun at the baby. Now tell me, what is himsa ahimsa here? Huh? And there are 5 guns pointing at him. What is the right thing to do? You don't hurt whom? How do you apply this idea of ahimsa? Ahimsa paramo dharma. So here the idea is here also ahimsa applies very much. How do you minimize himsa in this entire system? How do you minimize himsa? You let this fellow go, thinking you should not shoot this fellow, and he can do damage, and he can do further damage. He can shoot the baby, he can shoot other people on the street. So the potential for huge loss of life is there, and so you want to minimize that. How do you minimize that? You may have to shoot this man. You have to shoot the man on the street. The fellow who says ahimsa paramo dharma has to shoot this person. In our Tamil, long ago, there is a movie. I remember seeing that movie. It's called Thanga Padakam. Thanga Padakam means golden medal. That is the name of the movie. And a very famous actor called Shivaji Ganeshan acted in that movie. And as a child, I watched it, and I was very, very touched by it. Because in this movie, the father, Shivaji Ganeshan, is a cop, policeman. And the son happens to be a scoundrel and even a criminal. So now the climax is that the father is confronting the son. This is the climax. And will the father's love for the son, will that triumph, or will the call of duty of the father, of the policeman, which is going to triumph? That's the climax. So these are all situations which will really test our idea of what dharma is. And he ends up shooting the son. And so these situations help us understand that dharma has to be interpreted. So this ahimsa paramo dharma, don't take it literally. And you take it literally and then interpret it. You have to interpret it. What should I do so himsa is minimized? Think like that. Himsa is minimized. Father killed a son. Father is not going to go to jail, because this fellow This fellow is committing one crime after the other. So that is why he got a golden medal for killing his own son. Look at that. So now, like this, we can give so many examples. And recently, this Air India flight crashed in this Kozhikode. And so the work is going on. And I think there is some kind of principle in among the airlines that they are supposed to inform all the passengers. These days, all records are available, telephone calls, telephone numbers are available, closest relative, this, that, and all. So I'm sure somebody from the airlines will call all these families of the passengers to inform them. What happened? This is what happened. I'm sorry, we had a crash and there's still work going on. I'm sorry, your so-and-so son or daughter or whatever, mother, father, passed away. So there must be some protocols like that, I think. Because I'm inferring this because the newspaper, this says, a couple of 3 days ago, there is one lady who is the wife of one of the passengers. And they did not inform her that the passenger passed away. Her husband passed away. And why, if you ask, this lady is pregnant, about to give birth to a child. Look at that. So, violating the code, the airline code, for what? For the greater good. For the greater good. Because let the baby be born. Then we will see what to do. That is the idea. Now, how she is going to not know that the plane crashed and this and that, that's a different story. But this is what we heard in the news. So, vishesha dharma, constantly the apparent Saamaanya Dharma is violated. So, we have to understand. It appears like a violation, but it's not a violation. It is the right thing to do at that moment. And so like this every day, look at man-made laws. You drive on the street, you keep driving, and then the signals are there, you stop at the signals, and the signals are red, signal light is red, and this light doesn't change at all, it's always red, because the signals are malfunctioning. So people are not going to stay. So everywhere it's red. So what? There must be some mutual understanding, and you keep crossing the red cautiously. So how come you're violating a rule? Didn't you write an exam and a written exam in some countries, in other countries, some other types of exams, and you soar and say, I know all about driving. Huh? And what is this? You know all about driving. You're crossing the red. It's a violation. Well, in this case, it's not a violation. Okay. So interpret it. They don't teach you this. When you write the exam, they don't teach you. But you learn. You learn that you must interpret. So every day we keep on interpreting Dharma. Every day. In talking to people, neighbors, everything we interpret. So in a way, we are following vishesha Dharma. We are not following Saamaanya Dharma. We know the Saamaanya Dharma, we immediately interpret. What is the right thing to do? So, this is constant. A teacher also does this. When a student asks a question, then depending on the context, depending on what the student is asking, how the student is asking, depending on that, the teacher responds. Every teacher will know this. Every parent also will know this. Why teacher? Parent knows this. And constantly interpreting. Should I say it like this? Say that. Should I suppress information? Should I reveal it later? Should I reveal it now? This is called interpretation. So, very important to keep in mind. And therefore, having said that, we should also acknowledge that every law has an exception. There is no absolute law. There is no absolute law. Satyam Vada itself is not absolute. And human-made laws also not absolute. Gravitation, of course, not absolute. You can never say gravitation. The earth pulls all objects at so many 32 feet per second or 9.8 meters per second. You can't say that, because as you go higher and higher, that gravitational pull changes. And that is why all these astronauts are trained. They can't go in the rocket and our Indians, they go into the rocket, they may feel, it's 3 p.m., kuch chana khayenge. So he put some peanuts in the mouth. He threw the peanut in the mouth. What happened to the peanut? Peanut went off like that. So he's catching the peanut is running away from him, and major scene. Just to eat one peanut, major scene goes on. Why? Because the laws are operating differently. Even Ishvara's laws are all operating differently at different times at different places. Okay. So this we appreciate. So no absolute laws. You take tax laws. Tax laws are all constantly changing. It's all murky, and you constantly have to interpret. You read this and say, can I deduct my expenses on my daughter's college, fees and things like that? So all these constantly there is an interpretation. You have a law, you got to interpret it, and you interpret it in such a way that you're not stretching the interpretation too much. You're not stretching it. So there are gray areas where it's hard to interpret, and there are areas where it's easily interpreted. Okay. So all this talk is coming under what topic? Under the topic of Kaushalam, Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, which is verse number 50. So interpretation. Kaushalam means not simply Dharma, but interpretation of Dharma. How do you interpret it? So just because a law is universal doesn't mean it's absolute. And absolute laws, if there are any, or there are no absolute laws, but that doesn't mean the laws are not universal. Both we keep in mind. And so one can lead an ethical life. You don't have to be religious to lead an ethical life. And so somebody who is interpreting properly is leading an ethical life. But Ishvara has to be brought into this picture. Then only those actions, that life will be called as a life of Karma Yoga. So now we are going to spend a little time talking about this bringing Ishvara. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna does not talk about Ishvara. Ishvara is not there. It's all about you. It's all about Atma. Talks about Atma. And Achedyo Yamadakyoyam Achedyo Shosha Evacha Nitya Sarvagata Sthanuhu Achaloyam Sanatanaha. All referring to Atma only. Until the third chapter. Third chapter is when some Ishvara is talked about. So here we can bring in a shloka from the 18th chapter. It's verse number 46. 1846. And the shloka goes like this. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarchya siddhim vindati manavaha. It's a very important shloka. Yatah pravrittir bhutana. So, the one who created all the beings in this world, the one from whom all beings are created, and yena sarvam idam tatam, the one by whom the entire world is pervaded. Okay, these two, the one who created is there on the one hand, and then the one who pervades all the entire universe. These two are identical. That is where this shloka is saying that these two. How is that possible? And we've seen that before. We've seen that any creation in this world, any object is not separate from the material from which it is created. A pot is not separate from the clay. There are no two objects, pot and clay, really speaking. Even if you take them as, even if there are two words, pot and clay, still the pot is not separate from the clay. No product is separate from the material from which it is made. But then the pot is separate from the pot maker. But our vision of the creation of Srishti is what? Because Ishvara cannot borrow, go outside and get material. Like the pot maker can dig a hole and get clay out. But no, Ishvara is not that lucky. And Ishvara has to create material out of himself, herself. And that material called Maya is coming out of Ishvara. And therefore, that material is not separate from Ishvara. New vision of creation. Vision. This is Veda. This is the contribution of the Vedas. Otherwise, there is no way we can figure it out. And so that material not being separate from Ishvara. Okay. So the creation, a created object is not separate from the material, and the material is not separated from Ishvara. Therefore, the creation is not separate from Ishvara. Look at the logic there. Not separate from Ishvara. Product, no product. This is the grand vision. And so Pralaya is there. They talk about Pralaya. Pralaya means everything is gone. The world as you know it is disappeared. And the only thing that doesn't disappear is consciousness. Ishvara doesn't disappear. There always is. And you think the world is gone, but the world really is gone, not gone. It always is there. As Satyam, as Chit. Okay. So we saw that before. And so there is in this world what we call Ishvara Srishti. So things in this world that you know that no human being has created. No animal is created. It's all called Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti means that which is appearing like the trees out there, like so many things, the entire planet. Anything that you have not created, you and I have not created, is put in the bucket called Ishvara Srishti. Then the opposite of that is what? Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti means that which is created by the human being. All the so-called man-made things we say, human-made things are all attributed to Jiva Srishti. You can say, hey, this house is great. Yes, I designed it. I constructed it from scratch. They say that. Now, constructed it from scratch means if you start analyzing it, it gets a little complicated. You created this house. Then what did you do? Did you create the bricks also? No, I didn't create the bricks. Come on. I bought all these bricks. I chose the color of the bricks. Did you create the color? No, I didn't create the color. All the bricks and the stones. What about stones? Did you go to the quarry and dig all these stones yourself? No, I didn't do all that. And it all came. Okay, good. Stones came, bricks came, all this cement. What about cement? Did you grind all these things and create cement? Added all this calcium, this and phosphate that and carbonate that? No, I didn't do all that. So you didn't do all that. You didn't create all that. What about all the woodwork? Oh, beautiful woodwork. And what about all that? No, wood and all came. And then I made the carpenter sit here and work in front of my eyes. That's what I did. Okay, good. So you did not create the wood. You did not create the woodwork. What else? All fancy electronics these days in the homes you have. And so cameras there and all the gates, around the gates, cameras are there. And the cameras are watching this side, that side, north, east, south, west. And all you have to do is sit and then you can know from a distance who is coming, who is visiting your home. And on top of that, you've got all these machines that talk. And so, Mr. Vikram, we've the car number so and so, which means is your brother. He is visiting you. Then because the artificial intelligence, it knows exactly who is sitting in the car. Everything it knows. Face recognition, this, that, and then it tells you, oh, really? Very nice of him. Allow him in. And then the gate automatically opens. And then all this technology. What about all this? Did you create all this? And video cameras and all this technology? No, come on. I don't have to create all that. I can buy all these things. Okay, I see. So like this, you keep asking questions. Nothing. I really did not create anything. I made this house. I constructed this house. What kind of statement is that? So we say for the time being, there is Jiva Srishti. We just keep that. Yes, I am the cause of this house coming up. And so we call it Jiva Srishti. And the more we understand Ishvara, the less and less Jiva Srishti slowly becomes less and less emphasized, less real, so to speak. And that's how we appreciate this creation, this world, Ishvara, and ourselves also. So, having said that, we have to come back to Dharma because Kaushalam is the topic. And so there's a law of Dharma. There are so many laws in this world. And in school, we study all these laws. And law of gravitation, we study. And law of gravitation is there, but it is commonly sensed also. It is sensed by everybody. Of course, until we are taught, we don't know what to call it, etc. But every being senses it. Every monkey senses gravitation, knows about gravitation. And the monkey need not be told that if you, the baby monkey, need not be told if you don't hold on to your mother tightly, you're going to fall down. Somehow the monkey seems to know that. And the physicist fell down because he was looking here and there. And he knows all about gravitation, he knows everything in and out. But he himself, after knowing all that, the fellow falls down. But the monkey knows nothing. He doesn't know all these 9.8 and 32 and all these numbers. He doesn't know anything. It seems to jump from one tree to another tree. And you pay money and watch all these things. These days we have to pay money because you don't see these things in nature. In India, still in many places, we can see all this and we enjoy. But when you see it, you recognize, okay, these animals sense the laws which I spent so many years studying. So sensing of that naturally occurring dharma, like gravitation. Okay. And so just as these animals sense gravitation, just as these animals sense so many things, I, the human being, senses dharma. Senses dharma. Dharma has to be sensed. Otherwise, this human being who's endowed with a free will, who's endowed with choice, and who is endowed with self-consciousness, if you don't give him dharma, this fellow will just destroy everybody and himself also. So that dharma is sensed. Okay, dharma is sensed. And sometimes they use the word conscience, they say. But conscience, you may call it, but it is simple common sense. Common sense, commonly sensed. And it is so commonly sensed that you cannot say, I don't know. I don't know that I should not lie to somebody. Nobody can say that. Nobody can claim. That is why the jury cannot accept this argument. Accept this argument from anybody that I didn't know that I should not lie. This is not a valid defense. Not a valid defense, fortunately. And so that dharma is sensed also. Now, but the dharma is part of this creation, correct? It's part of this creation. See, our idea of creation is still not fully clear. And we are bringing all these things. These are all a little subtle. Anything that is gross, I can see it's part of the creation. But dharma, so subtle it is. Dharma is not there anywhere except the human being's mind. No animal needs dharma. Remember that. Because animals don't have free will, animals don't have choice, therefore they don't need dharma. Their behavior is all instinctual. But the human being's behavior has to be governed by dharma. And dharma is part of this srishti, Ishvara srishti. Dharma is not created by the human being, therefore it is not Jiva srishti, it is Ishvara srishti. So, dharma is part of the creation. And we said creation is not separate from Ishvara. Therefore, dharma is, since being it is a part of the creation, it is not separate from Ishvara. Dharma is Ishvara. Dharma is Ishvara. Means what? When I follow dharma, I am in harmony with Ishvara. This is why Sri Rama, Ramavatara. Rama is what? Rama is a Rama is a symbol of dharma. That is why Valmiki Ravana, somewhere it says, Ramaha Vigrahavan Dharmaha. Ramaha Vigrahavan Dharmaha. What is the meaning of that? If you understand dharma, and if you put two hands and two legs to that dharma, then that dharma will look like Sri Ram. That's the meaning. Ramaha Vigrahavan Dharmaha means Ramaha is a Vigraha, means a Murti of Dharma. Murti of Dharma. Means it's enough. You look at Ram, that's it. You are looking at Dharma, you are appreciating Dharma, the whole Dharma in a box, in a human being is Sri Ram. So, and therefore Dharma for us is Ishvara, very natural for us. All these things become very natural. And even though Ramayana story is there, and of course Ram leads a life of Dharma from day one, and he leads a life of Dharma. And what about Krishna? Krishna also is dharmic, but you don't think of Dharma when you think of Krishna. What do you think of? You think of joy from day one to the last. Joy, always smiling. Krishna doesn't suffer. Rama keeps suffering every day from day one, constant. He is always tested. And go and live here and live there and get away, banishment, all these things are there. And so, but Krishna no such problem. He is always joyful. So Ananda Swarupa. Sri Ramaha Dharma Swarupa. Sri Krishna Ananda Swarupa. And so, but the point here is that Dharma is Ishvara. When we say it's not separate from Ishvara, that Dharma is Ishvara for us. It is an aspect of Ishvara. Okay, very important. So, therefore, this shloka says, know what this shloka says? Number, what did I say? 46, 1846. Yatah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam. Means that from whom this creation has come about. And yena sarvam idam tatam, that by whom this entire world is pervaded. Okay. Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. Abhyarchanam. Worship this Ishvara. How do you worship this Ishvara? Through flowers, through big abhisheka, through going to all these temples? No. He says, Swakarmana. By your own actions that are in keeping with Dharma, you are automatically worshipping Ishvara. Look at that. Can any religion talk like this? Swakarmana tam abhyarchya. You don't have to do anything. Your every minute, whatever you are doing itself becomes an offering to Ishvara, becomes a worship of Ishvara. And it is so important that he says, Swakarmanatam abhyacha siddhim vindati manavaha. Siddhim vindati manavaha. The human being gains siddhi, means gains moksha. Okay, that's how important this is. And so very powerful, is it not? And why it's like this, we may have to understand a little more. So in this creation, you have to see Ishvara everywhere also. Dharma alone is not enough. And the creation, after it's being created, the creation is on. It's dynamic. It's constantly going on. Human body is there. Cells are constantly dying, constantly being born. We are oblivious to that. You go there, you get overnight, it rained, and then you come up in the morning, suddenly it's greener than it was yesterday. And somehow these trees and plants, they love, once they sense water, they somehow, I think, they must grow faster when these kinds of things happen. When water is there, I think they say, like we hoard, we put stuff in the refrigerator, lockdown, go and buy. For 2 weeks, you just buy all kinds of stuff and stock it in the refrigerator. I think the plants also, to some extent, they do it. They can't do it too much, but they suddenly, I think they grow a little more when they have these kinds of events. So it's growing. The plants are growing constantly. And things are happening all over the world. And often when we say world, we think of Earth. No, world is a lot bigger than Earth. And I appreciated that when I saw a video. When I saw the video made by Google, and Google helped me understand that the world is bigger than Earth. And they have this beautiful video. It's called Cosmic Eye or something. And there is a lady that's lying on a park. Lying on a park. That's all the scene is. The scene is, this video camera is there. And then it says smiling face, 1 meter. And then the camera starts zooming out. How many of you have seen this video? Yeah, Balaji is raising his hand, and Vijay, etc. A couple of you have seen this video. And so the camera moves up, keeps on moving, zooming out. And then it says, afterwards you see, and then it's the city of, then Googleplex. Then this, whatever that, Santa Clara, Sacramento, the entire city is there. Then California, then US, then the entire Earth you see. And the camera keeps on moving out. And Earth, as though this is not enough, Earth, and then they'll put some 10,000, some kilometers. Previously it was 1 meter, and the distance also, they keeps on increasing. And so then 100,000 kilometers, Earth and Mars, and then Jupiter, and then solar system, millions of kilometers, and then keeps on moving. There's no stopping. And they put all this, and then Milky Way comes suddenly. And then Andromeda and this nebula and these words they have in physics also. They have all these things. Suddenly this goes all the way. And then cosmic web, they say. Cosmic web. And then the video camera stops. And then camera starts zooming in. Keeps zooming in. And then the whole process is reversed. And then you approach the Milky Way. And then in the Milky Way you go. And suddenly you see the solar system. And then slowly, and then Earth is small. And then Earth becomes bigger and bigger. And Earth. And then suddenly you go to North America. And then you go to California. And then you go to Cupertino. And then you go to this park. And then smiling face, 1 meter. And the camera does not stop there. The camera just goes into the eye of this lady. and eye, and then retina, and then goes further down. And then molecules, and then DNA, chromosomes, and DNA, RNA, and then goes down further, and then atoms, and then electrons, protons, and then further down, further down. Keeps on going until you get all these technical terms that physicists use. Until now, biology, right? Chromosome, and then nucleus, peptide, this, that, DNA, RNA. Biology. Only biologists will know these words. Then you go deeper, then physicists will understand those terms. And the quark. The last thing is quark. And then camera zooms out again. Comes back to the face. And smiling face. 1 meter. Okay. 3-minute video. And then I had to remind myself, my goodness, this is amazing. So once in a while, we need to awe ourselves with these kinds of things, because our world becomes too small. My, me, I, me, myself. Sometimes people have to remind us, the world is not just you, my dear. It's a lot more than you. And so this srishti is not separate from Ishvara. So many things are going on. And there are plants which are programmed. And there are animals which are programmed. They're all programmed. Every animal is programmed. It behaves in a particular way. Humans, not programmed. How do you know the humans are not programmed? You have a dog at home. And you call the dog, Brownie, come here. Brownie comes and wags the tail, come sit here. And then sits next. You have guests coming at home. Your guests are visiting you. Swamiji has visited your home. And let's give a dramatic example. Swamiji has visited your home. And you say, puppy, Brownie, come here. Brownie comes and sits. Swamiji, Brownie has been with us for 10 years. And we love this. He makes our lives happy. And then you point to your son. Hey, Vikram, Swamiji, Vikram is learning a lot of shlokas, and he is attending all these heritage classes, and he knows to chant a lot of shlokas. Vikram, tell Swamiji all these shlokas that Shruti Smriti Puranana, you tell them. And then this Vikram says, no. He says, no. That is when you get shocked. Come on, Vikram, you know all this. You should tell Swamiji all this. And he says, no. And then he turns his head like this. And then you realize, the parents realize, my God, he's not like Brownie. Vikram and Brownie are very different. Very different. And you plead with Vikram, come on, beta, do this, do that. And Swamiji has to intervene. Swamiji has to intervene because Swamiji understands his psychology very well and says, it's okay, come on, you let him go, don't force him. And Swamiji has to engage this boy in a conversation. What are you? Who are you? What games do you like? All this. This is what the boy likes. And you chant all these things means what? And all day I've been doing it. And now in front of guests also, you're asking me to do this. So the child also is self-conscious and parents have already told the child, don't do this. You're not chanting this. This is not right. That is not right. You didn't do this right. So another person coming home, and also the child thinks that the person also is going to say the same thing. And so the child is also shy sometimes. So no, I'm not doing it. So worrying about what other people do. So these are all attributes only of a human being. Animal doesn't worry about, programmed beings don't worry about all this. That is why frogs the donkey can bray. Doesn't worry. Do people like my sound? All this, it doesn't worry. That's why it brays. The frogs can create a concert in the night and kurr, 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 kurr. They don't worry about, do our people like our concert? They don't worry about it. Human beings, on the other hand, do. All this is part of the creation, part of Srishti. So, this human being not being programmed needs all this setup, needs all this. So much is needed for the human being to understand And so that person needs this dharma in order to live a normal life. Dharma is needed, and the tendency to go against dharma is always there. That is why law enforcement is needed in every country, and good law enforcement. So America is a good example of fantastic law enforcement, and I want India to be like that someday, and it will become. And beautiful law enforcement. That is why life becomes simpler in America. Daily life, I mean, just doing things, and all things, basic problems are not there or get fixed quickly. And so that's all dharma, because nothing need to happen. The government need not do what it is supposed to do, and but they do in many countries. So the human being has the idea of dharma, and also has the tendency to transgress dharma. So here the idea is doing one's duty is the same as worshipping Ishvara, because the entire world is Ishvara. And I see a purpose in everything. The more I appreciate Ishvara, the more I see a purpose in everything in this world. The trees have a purpose, plants have a purpose. A small plant, Tulasi, has a purpose. And Tulasi, it seems, gives out ozone. Can you believe this? And how our rishis figured this out? They may not use the word ozone, but they put the Tulasi in the water and drink the water. And it's just mind-boggling if you think about all these things. And so when so much is there in this world, and every phenomenon has a purpose, including the planetary motion, and how can I think that I am not a part of this world? I am a part of this world, but how can I feel left out? The world is incomplete without me. Can I think like that? Shastram says, yeah, the world is incomplete without me. And therefore, my actions are important. My actions impinge on those of others and the rest of the world. And therefore, I am an important entity. And therefore, like a concert, this concert is going on, a symphony, if you want to use the word. And there are so many players there. So many instruments are there, and half of the instruments you don't know. You've never seen them also. Big violins, small violins, and some other instruments, they do like this. And everybody has a role to play in that symphony. Correct? Even the person who plays the cymbals. Cymbals means those bell-like structures. Dhang, dhang, or in the hand. Chang. So once in 15 minutes only he does. Everybody else, the violin is just going constantly for the 1 hour he or she is doing this. No rest. But the cymbals guy, only once in 15 minutes. Chang. Suppose he decides, this is, everybody's busy and I should also be busy, a little bit. And then he decides, chang, 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 keeps on doing it. There's no concert. That person's role is also very important. Very important role. Appears as though the person is silent. Not doing anything also is a part of the dharma for him. And so, that being the vision, how can I feel left out? And the body politic is there. The body, so many things are happening in this body. How can I say I'm a non-entity? You take a simple, how all these organs are working in tandem. Look at that. The liver, the lungs, the digestive system, the circulatory system, the neurological system are all working. There's a major drama going on in this body every second. If you think about it, it's just mind-boggling. Yesterday I was thinking about this. What happens when a wound occurs? When there is a cut in the body. small cut. You were in the kitchen and you just cut, slight cut came. And the blood is oozing out. And they say all kinds of things happen. And then the blood, some proteins are generated for the blood to clot. Blood has to clot its own, the body's mechanism to suppress the blood flow and shutting down the blood flow by itself. Even without your intervention, it is trying to cut down the blood flow. And then what? Then there is inflammation. And so liquids are being formed and that part of the body gets a little, swollen. And those fluids are needed to clean the area, it seems. And you think the inflammation is a problem. The real problem is if it does not get inflamed, then there is a problem. Look at that. Some Mohini ji is shaking her head. And so then there is a problem. Then we need to worry. Immunity is not working. Then what? Then white blood corpuscles are fighting. They're all assembling there with their guns and then ready to attack all these germs. And then blood vessels. It seems blood vessels are also, I don't know if they're generated or if the existing blood vessels are becoming more active, but more blood flow into that area because oxygen and nutrients are required for the healing process to take place. What is this? Who told this body to do all these things? Can you even imagine these processes are happening in the body? And that's why doctors always say, I don't cure. The body, Ishvara cures. And we are only just nimittas. We try to find out and help the process of curing. And so with so much going on and so much symbiosis in this world and this animal life, you look at all this National Geographic and Animal Planet, it is just mind-boggling. And you think the shark is something that eats all animals. No, the shark does not eat all animals, all fish that comes in its way. Because you see the shark whose mouth is open like this. Big shark, okay? The mouth is open and you look at the mouth, it's like a big room, okay? And and then you have a fish, another mini like shark fish. They're called some sucker fish or something like that, okay? And they come, you know what they do? They are like the vacuum machine. They're coming inside the shark and then biting off all these food particles, all the other bacteria, all the loose skin, all these things, it just eats away. The shark's mouth is just open like this. And I saw a video of this. And then they open and then it does its job. For 5 minutes, this fellow goes and cleans up the inside of the shark's mouth. And then he goes out. And then the shark closes its mouth. And the shark really cannot see this because the eyes are like this. How it can see this fish, I don't know. This is just too mind-boggling. And therefore, this is life. This is how the world is. Srishti is. So, the point here is, our vision is that the entire cosmos is throbbing and Dharma is part of it. I am part of this cosmos. I am not an insignificant part. I am a very significant part of this cosmos. So this is a vision. This is not simply some feel-good statement. No, it's a vision. For us, it is a vision. We understand Ishvara. Therefore, with that, we'll stop today. But we will conclude this shloka in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamidachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.